It's time to talk football, and specifically in this case to talk Aston Villa. We're joined by Andy Dale, author of Just 14, lifelong AVFC supporter. Andy, welcome. Great to see you.
Hello there.
And thanks for having a chat with us about, I guess, all things claret and blue. First of all, tell us how your love of the club began.
My love of the club goes back to probably when I was 6. I came from a family of Wolves fans. My brother, Chris, who was 3 years older, was a Wolves fan, and so was my dad and my granddad. And Christmas Day, 1974, my granddad gave me and Chris both presents. And they were tracksuits, which he'd got from CNA. Right? Now, Chris opened his, and it was a yellow tracksuit. And he's really excited. It's a Wolves one. Right? It wasn't. It was a yellow tracksuit. Right. I opened mine, and it's a purple claret colour. And I'm quite upset about this, which is really bad. And my granddad, thinking on his feet, sits me down and says, "That's the colours of Aston Villa. One of the best teams who won the FA Cup 7 times. And we still have, of course." Yeah. And I stopped crying. And from that day, I've been a Villa fan. And me and my brother, total rivals. Every year, every season, any Wolves Villa games, it's always there. But I've been a Villa fan since that day.
Yeah,
my granddad's fault.
Lovely story. Now, there was some success in the 70s in the League Cup, but do you remember your first game, the first time?
I mean, I actually remember the League Cup as well, interestingly, because on the 75 one, with Ray Graydon's penalty, was probably the first thing I listened to on the radio. So I had that one. Then for my 9th birthday, 76, my dad took me to my first Villa game, which was Middlesbrough at home. We won 1-0 and John Dean scored.
Do you remember the goal?
No, I remember the programme.
Yeah.
And also the atmosphere going in there. I'm pretty sure it came from the right, but I don't know. I'll try and find it one of these days. You can't find the old games, can you?
No. But how do you recall the whole experience?
It was like I expected. I mean, just going there, because we went down the motorway to junction 6, and we parked up, and there was someone going, "Mind your car, sir," for 50p.
Right.
Remember all that sort of stuff. And getting there really early, like an hour before the game, was there in the whole tent to try and find one of the barriers to go against behind the goal. It was just, I was just hooked from. I'd always been a fan before that, from actual all the Radio Birmingham. The goal horn was always there. It used to be quite funny. I had a lucky radio.
Yeah.
And only when this radio was on would the goal be for the Villa. My brother made lots of fun about it. Yeah. And he used to hide the radio. And he said, "There's nothing, it can't be lucky, but you can guarantee if my radio wasn't there, the goal horn goes and it's against the Villa. As soon as I get the radio, it goes and the Villa have scored." So I started going to a few games, probably 3 or 4 a season, when my dad could take me, from 76 to about 80. And the promise always was that for my 14th birthday, I would get a season ticket. Chris, my brother, was 3 years older, so he was going to the Wolves from sort of about 77 with his season ticket. So I was always waiting. I would go to the Villa Wolves game at Molineux. Obviously, I have to go in the sort of with the Wolves fans and behave myself, which you could do in those days. Not like now, or something like that. And I'd go to the odd maybe midweek game and the League Cup sort of ones. But mainly it was following it on the radio. My granddad on the Sunday would come with the Sunday People paper and also the Sports Argus.
Right.
No, so that's not true. Sporting Star, Wolverhampton
key part
version.
of the match day.
It was, so therefore he would go at 5:30, get his pink paper. Then when he came for lunch on the Sunday, I'd always spend the whole afternoon going through the papers and the pink. And then, of course, we got sort of, as well as Match of the Day, you got Star Soccer.
Yeah.
The Star Soccer was just the
Classic.
Midland teams. Yeah, it's totally. So you knew your team were going to be on every few weeks, because Match of the Day had probably got 2 games on.
Mm.
And the chance of it being the Villa game, and also I was still a bit young, really.
At that age, though, I can see your face lighting up, the
Like
twinkle in your eye,
I did,
talking
yes.
about it, because it means everything to you, doesn't it?
Totally.
Football.
Like I said, the radio side was a really big thing,
Mm.
because they used to have guess the goals, and you had to predict at the start how many goals were going to be scored in the Midland games on Radio Birmingham. So I'd be there ringing up for ages to get my guess in.
Yeah, and having worked in it, you can't beat the power of
No.
a radio, can you? Just in conjuring
Yeah.
the atmosphere
Mhm.
of a match day, which you must have so many good memories of.
Yeah. But then 77, though, when they won that over the Elite Cup
Mm.
against Everton, I actually watched, I think the first time, it was only highlights for the game at Wembley and then the replay. And then had to wait up for sports night
Right.
to watch
Yeah.
the second replay.
Mm.
And I didn't know the score, because you didn't in those days.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, slightly later on you'd got your first teletext, and you could then put CFAX on
Yeah.
and find the score. But apart from the radio ones, it was difficult.
Yeah,
But that
people
was
don't do that
amazing.
nowadays. It's like that Likely Lads episode, isn't it?
It is the
When they
classic
don't know
one,
it's that.
yes.
It's, yeah,
And the
not-
game's called
Yeah,
off.
exactly. Yeah,
I've done that myself, to be honest.
But the 70s as well. You know, those 2 League Cup wins. Brian Little, Chris
Yeah.
Nichol. You know,
Yeah.
they were
But-
wonderful players with the club and great people.
They were, and I've met Brian since.
Yeah.
That's really good to do. But one thing to mention is, when I did start supporting them that year, they're in the 2nd division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Ron Saunders took over late that season.
Mm.
And that's when it all changed. And then you've got the 75.
Mm.
And one of my first records I had was the Villa single, We're Going Up,
Right.
which I've still got, which if you haven't heard, it's a classic
Yeah.
one. It really
Do you want to give us a little
I still
rendition?
played it. We're going up, we're going up, we're going right up to the top. We are. Yeah, okay, I could sing the whole thing, but
Which is what
I
happened,
don't
though,
do-
ultimately. Yeah.
yeah, I've never been sort of a musical person, so
Very good, I thought.
yes. So that's there. So they got promotion with Ron Saunders, and then he built the team. And my favourite player probably then was Andy Gray, of course.
Yeah.
Who then goes and signs for my club, Brothers Club Wolves. £1.5 million they can afford to actually buy Andy Gray, and I was just heartbroken.
Bit of sibling banter there, probably, wasn't there? Yeah.
Completely. And it gets even worse.
Go on.
My granddad couldn't go to the Wolves Nottingham Forest League Cup final
Mm.
in 1980, so I actually went with my brother and my dad to Wembley behind the goal when Andy Gray scores the winner for the Wolves. It's that classic one with the red
Yeah.
strip around the white
Right,
ball,
yeah, yeah.
just going past Peter Shilton.
So you've encapsulated the highs and lows of football, haven't you, in the last couple of minutes? But it is that roller coaster of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I can see that Ron was building a new team.
Mm.
I mean, my favourite players were Andy Gray and John Goodman, who both went.
Mm.
Brian, like I say, I didn't see him play that much because of the injury.
Mm.
So my Brian memories are from when he was manager in '96.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've already mentioned I've written the book Just 14, which is based on the 14 players winning the league in 80-81
Mhm.
when I am turning 14. So it's a case of sort of how I'm a bit of school bullying, first time my grandparent dies, all those things,
Mm.
and all the 80s retro, the Bucks Fizz, all that sort of
Yeah.
stuff, the Dallas Who Shot JR, that's all there in the book I wrote called Just 14. And from that I've got to meet a lot of these players who were my heroes.
And they're such nice people, aren't they? So down to earth. Having worked with them as well, they're just they're just absolute gems. Yeah.
It's just so different, isn't it? You don't realise. I mean, it's interesting. My all-time favourite player is Sid Gordon Cowans. And I met all the players from that, no problem at all. But I go to talk to Gordon and I'm just
Really?
totally
Yeah,
freeze. I
starstruck.
find it so difficult.
Mm.
I'm getting better now,
Mm.
but it's just one of those things that he just was amazing. I mean, one of the first games I saw with Sid there, before the game started, what he used to always do in the warm-up, he would chip the ball, training ball, and one of the coaches would hold the bag open,
Right.
and it went straight in.
Yeah.
And I'm sat there watching as this ball goes about sort of 30 yards straight into an open bag.
Mm.
And that's how good Gordon was.
And so humble with it.
He's lovely, yeah.
Mm. Good mates with Tony Morley as well, who's I think he sums up the humour as well of football and the character, because what you will have found, I'm sure, is why they were such a good team and such a good squad, because they had that mix, didn't they, of personalities.
Yeah. Tony's one of my favourites as well.
Mm.
The best winger I've seen is Tony Morley. I mean, the goal against Everton was just amazing, but also the Dynamo Berlin,
Yeah.
how he turned those two around.
Mm.
The second one after Jimmy's save.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started, my first season ticket was the European Cup season.
Right.
It's been downhill since then, hasn't it?
Well,
Hopefully we're going to get back to there, but like I say, that's how it started. So the year before, the Just 14, was really following as many games as I could, always on the radio. I did go to 5 of the games,
right.
including the one, the Villa Albion, when the very last minute we needed to win. Ipswich had won the previous game. It was getting close. 0-0, last minute, and Brendan Batson's back pass gets stuck on the way, and Peter Weir in front of us scores the goal. And that's one of the highlights of the season. Yeah.
There were so many derbies as well, weren't there?
Well, we played 14 derbies, in fact, and only failed to win one of them. A draw against Stoke. It was amazing. I mean, you could Leicester, Stoke, Coventry, the whole lot. And on my 14th birthday, which is the 4th of April, we beat Leicester 4-2 to go back top at Leicester. And that was also the same day that Bucks Fizz won Eurovision, Aldeniti won the Grand National, and there was a boat race.
Right.
And I had a chopper bike as well.
Oh, brilliant! I won't ask you to sing the Bucks Fizz song, but it's remarkable. And was it providing escapism for you as well? Because you mentioned about the things that were happening in your life.
I think it does, yeah. The constant in my whole life's always been the Villa. Okay, they've let me down a few times, like Chelsea in the Cup the other night. But I'll be there next game.
Yeah.
And whatever happens, they'll be there. But I suppose at school, the nice thing was we had a small group of us who all supported West Midlands teams. We got Wolves, Albion and Walsall. No blue noses.
No, not allowed.
And that was all part of it, and it's weird looking back. It's all so rosy.
Yeah.
But you realise the crowds you get now are so much more than the crowds you had in the 80s.
It is, I know, it's noticeable, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've started last month making a spreadsheet of every game I've been to. Because early on I used to have a sort of a scrapbook. Yeah. And I kept records of probably the first 300 games. Exactly who played them, who's highest goal scorer. So I've started this year doing it as a spreadsheet.
Right.
I've got to game 700 so far.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Any goals or games that stand out particularly in your mind that you've enjoyed more than others?
I think the big one is still Tranmere. The semi-final, like most Villa fans, we waited so long after the 82 game to actually get to Wembley. And actually getting that on penalties when they lost the first game 3-1. Dalian was fantastic. It's still heartbreaking, Dalian Atkinson's story. He was just the most talented player there was. He didn't always give the whole lot. He wasn't that committed. But on his day, he was unplayable.
Yeah.
And he scored because we got Tranmere. We'd drawn the team from the lower division. You almost thought, surely this is going to be the time we're finally going to get to Wembley.
Yeah.
After all these years. And then we go in the away leg and we're 3-0 down. And then Dalian scored virtually the last kick, a great goal in the first leg. to make it 3-1. And you just think, there's a chance, it's not over yet. And then to actually, the second leg, to be about to lose again, because we're only 2-1 up, and then Daly scored that third goal to take to penalties. And then Bozzy, my favourite goalie of all time, was just brilliant to penalty shootout.
Because it doesn't always turn around. Just ask Paul Lambert with the Bradford situation when they lost and didn't come back.
Probably the worst.
Well, there you go. But it balances out, doesn't it? Over the years. What is it? David Bradley says in the video. It's the lows that make the highs higher, and that is so true, isn't it? Because the noise levels for the Tranmere game, and then to go on and do the business at Wembley against Manchester United.
Both Wembley finals, that and the Leeds one were fun. I mean, against Leeds, the Brian Little were brilliant.
Yeah.
We could have scored 4 or 5 that day. And I was a bit of a Sabo fan.
Yeah.
And that moment, being
goal.
there when Sabo scored that,
Yeah.
I just turned to mate and said, told you.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I think the other high probably is the Inter Milan, the first one, the 2-0. When you got sort of the Kent Nielsen second goal. Because having Gordon Cowans come back for that second lot was amazing. And him and Platty, the understanding those two players had is the best I've seen.
Yeah. How about in the more modern era of Premier League? Have you got any particular players or managers you like?
It's odd because there's so many players now, you forget them.
Yeah.
And they're not sort of those. I still like 1 to 11.
Yeah.
Squad numbers still annoy me, a bit old fashioned. But I love football now. I love it.
You love it as much now as you did?
I do, yes. Yeah. Memories are there from the old ones, yeah. But the thrill of going to Villa Park these days, the last year has been amazing. I mean, that run of home games, 16 on the trot, you just couldn't believe it. I'm always pessimistic. I always go to my wife before I go there. I go sort of, I'll be happy with a draw will do. And then they win again. And they keep coming back and they've won.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Jack Grealish, he's such a talent. I think he made a big mistake going to Man City because he was a hero of Villa Park. He could be an ultimate legend. And now he's just sitting on the bench there. And yet Pep's taught him quite a lot of stuff. But he's not really become the superstar, the world beater he could have been. Okay, he's got medals, but what do they mean? If he'd won 1 medal at Villa Park, that would have meant so much more than all those he's won at the moment.
And also it's so good, isn't it? You talk about when he played for Villa. When you can make that connection, isn't it? Like when Dean Smith was manager, as a fan, with the supporters and through
totally.
their
2 fans
performances.
being there that playoff day. And that playoff day was amazing. I think the year before, we all thought, we were on the coach going to see against Fulham. And I was thinking, everyone in this coach thinks we've won this. What if we don't? And then we came back and we hadn't. And we're just so gutted.
Yeah.
But probably the best thing for us.
Yeah, in the long run,
I mean, the way
certainly.
it turned out, a big Dean Smith fan, and he's a lovely man as well.
Yeah.
I know Dean. But modern players, I suppose not so modern, Paul McGrath was impressive. Great one, everybody says this. But I really love Gareth Southgate. And it really hurts me the way the Villa fans currently treat him.
Because of him going to
Middlesbrough, and also because Spurs not playing Jack for a long time, and he's not playing Konza at the moment.
Yeah, no, and seems to have been reluctant at times to pick Watkins in the squad. Yeah.
But I think as a servant to the Villa, he was amazing.
Yeah,
it was really good. It's just so annoying that FA Cup final against Chelsea.
Yeah,
the last one at Wembley. It was a dreadful game, but we could have won it.
And having had such a great run to the final as well. There was so much drama, wasn't there? Yeah, the Carboni hat-trick
was fantastic. Yeah,
and the penalty shootout win in the semi with Dion.
Yeah. But I was behind the goal, and we had a chance. Very end that Hugo should have probably scored, but also David James should have caught it.
Yeah.
And I'm still, like I say, it's one of those things. The FA Cup, because of my granddad saying all those years ago, the Villa won it 7 times.
Yeah.
To actually finally get to the final in 2000,
Yeah.
I thought that was going to be it.
Mm.
But we didn't really turn up, did we?
Mm. This feels like a very real interview, Andy. That's what I like about it. It's easy, isn't it, in life, to look at it back through rose-tinted spectacles.
Yeah.
But what sport and football and a devotion to a team is, as we've mentioned, it is those peaks and troughs. And I suppose even in the season of winning the title, it wasn't always necessarily plain sailing. Obviously, I had that happy ending.
Well, I was at Highbury.
Mm.
Because what actually happened is quite weird. This went to the Albion game, then the following Tuesday was the game against Ipswich, the title decider. Okay, so we went, me dad, and it was those days where you didn't need a ticket. It was a case of getting there early, queuing up, and getting in. But unfortunately, Spaghetti Junction, we had a car crash on the way, and my dad, he was there, got shunted to the car in front by the car behind. But he was determined to get me there, so we actually got there and we walked down, we queued, and we might have got in. But he was shaken, and I decided that no, let's go.
Yeah.
So we then drove back, with the cars crashed and things, listened to the radio, and Ipswich taking a 2-goal lead. And you just think, it's not going to happen. Then, of course, the famous interview the next day, Ron Saunders was on sort of Central News. Yeah. Would you bet against us?
Yeah, the famous.
And I actually I believed him. I thought, no, we can do this. And then I thought against Middlesbrough, I didn't get to the game, but I really thought that was it with the 3-0. But my dad then said that from our local church, the church steward, a big Villa fan, who I didn't know very much, would take me to Highbury, and actually got me a ticket as this 14-year-old to go to Highbury.
Amazing.
And we're there. It's just the clock end. So many people say they were there, and they were there because so many Villa fans were in that ground that day. And at the start, we've got Pele walking around the pitch.
Of course, yeah.
And then we're waving at Pele, so well, this is quite good. And I didn't realise at the time the Villa coach was delayed, and they actually weren't there warming up. And it's only clicks me now I realise there were no players on the pitch. Yeah. But then within like 40 minutes we're 2-0 down, aren't we? And it's just heartbroken completely. Try not to cry at 14, sort of thing. And then the second half, people behind have the radios on. Bosko Jankovic has equalised. We get the idea that they're all celebrating. There must be an equaliser.
Villa legend.
As we knew at half time, it was 1-0 to Ipswich. And then the second cheers, and there's the whole feeling, the champagne coming over me was just, that's one of the best feelings ever. The game we lost.
Almost adds to the interest of the story and the narrative, though, doesn't it? Yeah, you would have liked to do it in the last minute, top corner, and win the game, but actually it happened in a surreal sort of way, didn't it?
Well, from the book, the Just 14 book, we're now doing the movie.
Yeah.
Which is why I met so many of the players, because the idea is to get cameos of all the existing 13 of the 14 players. The one who sadly isn't there is Eamon Deasy, who everyone talks so fondly about. I know in Ireland he was a hero, and he's got his own stadium and things like this. So what we're trying to do is superimpose him somewhere in there as well.
Oh, that's a good idea,
But it goes back to the Arsenal film Fever Pitch, where the build-up and winning the league against Liverpool, even like for a Villa fan, when I watch it, I get the buzz, because I know, as a fan, it's like. And that's what the Villa Arsenal thing is at the end. The fact that you've gone to the high, but then it's not going to quite work. And obviously the winning it is the end, and at the front of the town hall, seeing the Dennis Mortimer lift the trophy there, it's really good. And then my first year as a season ticket, which interestingly, this is interesting, cost £14 in the Lower Trinity. My dad, because I was on my own, when he went and found it, actually found the front row of the Lower Trinity right by the manager's bench.
Right.
And I've been in that Trinity for the last 42 years. They've knocked it down and rebuilt it, which, again, I think is really sad because the character of that old building was amazing.
Yeah.
And it still disappoints me that they couldn't have kept some of the features. But I still just been down there. I'm on row 6 now.
Right.
When he got knocked down and got moved back, I actually sort of moved where I was.
It's not 14 quid anymore, but
It's not 14 quid anymore, that's true.
but yeah, I mean, what value? You mentioned the film there, and you talked about Fever Pitch. I think also in the promotional material, you've mentioned Adrian Mole and Gregory's Girl as well.
Yes.
So it's got all of those
It is, yeah.
these sort of elements.
Because the book is a diary.
Yeah.
It's a diary of a 14-year-old that goes down every game of the season, which I followed some way, either on the radio, watching CFAX page go very slowly, in Rumbelows window when I've got to go shopping, or occasionally beating the game like the Arsenal one.
Yeah.
So my first season ticket won the next year, the European Cup year. First game, we've got Notts County at home, who've got promotion. So they come promote the Championship trophies there, lifted aloft, and they lose 1-0 to Notts County on the first game.
It really is, a bump back down to earth a bit. Yeah.
But it turned out well, although obviously the Ron Saunders resignation was probably the biggest disappointment ever.
Was it? As a Villa fan? Yeah.
He'd done so brilliantly. He was just a hero. He was the Brian Clough version. Bit of a sergeant major. But he just took them from second division to the European Cup, really.
Yeah. He did. Yeah, simply.
Tony Barton did a wonderful job, and he kept things going. He kept the same players there. Yeah.
But I mean, we could talk for hours, couldn't we? Literally, and things would just crop up naturally. Anything else from your whole time supporting Villa, doing the book, and now the trailer for the film?
There is my Simon Mayo confession.
Oh, go on, yeah.
Yes. In 2003, I got married for the first time. So my second wife is not the one it was this time.
Yeah.
And the problem was, I tried to plan the wedding when there's no Villa. I obviously went for August, early.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not a European Championship or World Cup season. So when planning the wedding, you have to do it. Choose an odd number and choose the time, or look at those international break dates now, which you can do. Sadly, it didn't happen. In August, season started, and we were playing Leicester on the wedding day. So I'd got by that point, my stepdaughter, who was going to be, had a child season ticket. So I got my adult one and a child one next door. And he used to sort of take her sometimes, or another lad used to come. Day of the wedding, Villa were playing Leicester. Yeah. Wedding was at 11. We had the marquee in my parents' garden afterwards. And just in case, I put the 2 season tickets in my suit pocket. Okay? I hadn't had anything to drink deliberately, just in case, you never know, right? And about 2, it was going to be a bit of a quiet period. And there was a bit of problems with my wife's family and various things going on. And my wife said, "Do you want to go?" And this is like 2:20 in Wolverhampton, 3 o'clock. And I said, "Well, are you sure?" And she said, "Yes, go on." I mean, she was.
She must love you.
big football fan. So she came with me.
Right.
Okay, we got there. We arrived 10 minutes late. That meant running down sort of from Aston Hall where we parked. Yeah. She got a wedding dress on. Okay. And I'd got my suit and buttonhole.
Yeah.
And we get to the door, and I hadn't got time to go to the ticket office and upgrade the child ticket to a senior one. So we just gave them and went straight through.
Yeah.
So my confession to Simon Mayo on BBC on Radio 2 was, to the villa that we'd actually got in and the full price
Right.
ticket.
Sure, they mind. They had a good story or reason for it, yeah.
They forgave me. It was very good.
Yeah, brilliant.
But we missed the first 2 goals.
Oh,
So I
okay.
came in, we're 2-0 up. Angel had scored 2. 1 Pablo Angel, another my favourite, great player. Yeah. And Peter Whittingham, I think he made both the goals.
Oh, right,
Sadly,
Peter.
not
Yeah,
much
yeah. He was. Yeah, I remember.
Was a
I do
winger.
remember the game.
Yeah.
Was O'Leary the manager? Can't remember. Or was it?
Yes, it was
yeah,
earlier,
yeah.
yes, that's right, yeah.
His first season, wouldn't it?
Yes,
yeah,
it would
yeah.
have been, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And match of the day, he gets on.
Mm.
At the start of the day, Gary Lineker actually goes, and I can't find this anywhere. The games are so good today, it's worth missing your wedding for. Because down the Trinity, you see me and this bride
Right.
coming down, and the whole crowd, the Trinity people, all rise to me. Because I've taken my bride on the wedding day to Villa Park.
Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, we'll have to have a word with them, see if they've got it on the archive. Probably be on a VHS, wouldn't
I
it?
have tried. Like I say, it's one of those things. The other player I haven't mentioned so far that is in my top 3 is Gareth Barry.
Right.
From Gareth Barry's debut, and I think the first time at Villa Park was against Arsenal as a 17-year-old, he was fantastic. As a centre half, me and my friend called him like 007. He was just so cool. Nothing ever got him flustered.
Yeah.
And when he moved to midfield, he was even better, wasn't he? And his left foot and things.
Played in a few different positions, actually.
He did,
Gareth,
in a
didn't he,
lot of
for Villa?
games.
Yeah.
And
Well, I think James Milner might actually break his
I know,
record.
It's quite weird, isn't it? The
Yeah.
top 2 are going to be both Villa ones. And
Yeah,
actually
they are.
Young is still playing. Why are those players so fit?
It's amazing. Villa had some fantastic midfielders back under O'Neill, didn't they? When you looked at Milner, Petrov, Young, Downing, Barry, but
completely.
Barry, yeah. So and you, as you mentioned, Juan Pablo Angel was here
He
a
was.
favourite. I mean, he scored that cracking goal, didn't he, against Chelsea in the
One of the other
League
good
Cup.
goals was the Luke Nillis goal.
Oh yes,
I mean, Luke Nillis, that was one hell of a signing that I
Mm.
thought he was going to be fantastic. And again, he broke his leg, and that was it.
yeah. Well, we'll never know, will we? We'll never
No.
know. But you must have had some great experiences more recently with doing the promotion for the film with Gary
made-
Shaw as a school teacher and Tony Morley as a gardener.
Yeah,
things
because
like that.
we've done the trailer,
Yeah.
and the idea was to show the cameo idea to people.
Mm.
People watching the film who aren't Villa fans will not know who these people are,
Yeah.
but for your Villa fans of that certain age, they could spot them. So, first of all, Tony Morley, Aston Hall, what can we do? We'll make him a gardener. So I got the gardener's outfit, and he loved it.
Yeah.
He
I
said
bet
his
he did.
roses at home were really good.
Yeah.
So Gary Shaw was going to be a teacher. Now, we couldn't find anywhere to film. And
Right.
I was thinking that my old secondary school
Yeah.
had been closed down for 10 years, but it is now a community centre.
Right.
So
yeah.
the rooms are still there as they were. So we approached them, and they agreed to do it.
Right.
Now, I wasn't there that day of filming, and the director chose an upstairs classroom, which was actually used to be my classroom. And we had Gary Shaw cameo as a teacher
Yeah.
in my classroom. And that was just so surreal.
Yeah, I bet it was.
You think? Gary was lovely. He likes
Actually, quite a bright guy, Gary. I could
He's
see
just-
him possibly as a teacher. Yeah.
he likes his drink, which is fair enough. Yeah. And some of the times in the evening, he can be quite interesting.
Yeah.
But with those children, the afternoon, he was fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had them spellbound because he told them his stories as well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you said earlier, what a friendly and interesting bunch of guys.
And they're so close. Kenny Swain, he's so lovely. He's helped us so much. For example, I had somebody who went to Rotterdam who'd got a shirt signed by all the players but not Kenny.
Right.
And they contacted me from my poster, can you help? I said, well, yeah, I'll contact Kenny. Kenny agreed to go to his home and sign the shirt.
Right. Yeah.
So that's no money involved. Just went and did it like that. Yeah. And the other one we've got, as part of the film, I've met a lot of new friends
Mm.
from the Villa community
Great.
who become ambassadors.
Yeah.
One of them, Alan Crampton, has made a large model of Villa Park. He's a Sputio person,
Yeah.
which I played a lot of Sputio
Yeah.
growing up. And he's made a fully replica version of Villa Park, which is
Superb,
fantastic.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
And he was celebrating 50 years since his first game.
Mm.
So he thought, what can you celebrate? So we decided to arrange to take Brian Little and Kenny Swain to Alan's house to show them the model and have a drink.
Oh, brilliant.
And that's why they agreed. That was last November. But actually going and spending, just having a meal with these people,
Mm.
talking Subbuteo. We explained the rules to Brian of how you play Subbuteo, how you do the flicks and all this. It's just surreal. You can't, these days, I'm sure the players are still approachable,
Mm.
but you can't get to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, can't wait to meet Alan now and do one of these with
Yeah,
him. I mean,
well,
I'm sure
Alan
he'd love
would
it,
be
and that's the
ideal for this,
idea.
yes.
But that's what it
Completely.
is. It's about getting that link between players and fans, which is so
Yes.
important. Obviously, I've done that in my job as an interviewer and a commentator, and it's been really fascinating part of it.
Yeah.
But for you to have met the players you idolised, I mean, that must mean absolutely everything.
Well, they text me and things now. It's, the
Oh,
stress
yeah,
about it.
it's
I mean,
brilliant,
that's-
isn't it? Yeah, it's brilliant. So there's been like a who's
Yes.
who of Aston Villa this Andy. I'll tell you, it's as if this was planned as well. Shall we have a look at the at the trailer
that'd be
to
good,
finish
thank-
off?
yes.
Perfect, and really good
Great
to
to
see
meet
you,
Jack,
and
finally.
great to have the memories with you
Okay.
as well. Okay, let's have a look.
Thank you.
So what brings me and my granddaughter to watch the mighty Aston Villa on my niece's wedding day? Well, are we in trouble? The story started over 40 years ago. Of course, football fans don't live their lives in years. They live them in seasons. And the 1980 to 81 season was about to start.
Let me in. I need to listen to my lucky radio.
There's no such thing. Listen to it downstairs like a normal person.
The go horn.
2 minutes past 3, and our first goal of the season is at Elland Road, where the Villa have gone 1-0 down. Unfortunately for Jonathan, life wasn't just about the Villa. There were the ill-timed interruptions like the family holiday to Bournemouth, and the new school year.
Is this yours?
Yeah, pathetic. Bet you can't name 10 other songs.
Bet I can.
Go on then.
Mamma Mia, Dancing Queen. Don't do that.
Sorry. My hand slipped. What's the weirdo looking at?
Don't know, don't care.
Hi, Jonathan.
Oh, hi.
Got back from Bournemouth all right then?
Yeah.
Right, well I'll leave you to it. I just hope you're better at this than air hockey.
What's she talking about?
We had a game of air hockey
When?
on holiday.
What? You went on holiday together?
No, we met there by accident.
In Bournemouth? Yeah, of course you did.
Hang on. Are you a Villa fan?
Yeah, I'm a season ticket holder.
Really? You like football? But you're a girl.
So you have noticed. Stadler, it's the 1980s. Girls can like football too.
Yeah, of course, but surely you don't go on your own or stand in the Holt end. There's no girls' bogs, are there?
No, stupid. I go with my dad. The new North Stand?
Ah, yeah, okay. Well, I'll probably see you at the ground sometime then.
Yeah, you can buy me a pie. I'm kidding.
Fortunately, away from school, Jonathan could spend time with his beloved granddad Jack and his neighbour Randy.
Come on then, Randy. Tell us why you follow the Villa. From his armchair, mind. You see, Randy there built Spaghetti Junction, all on his own hand.
Really?
No, I had a wheelbarrow. Only joking. I was part of the crew, and sometimes when we worked nights and there was a game on, I'd see the floodlights and hear the roar of the crowd, and I'd think to myself, that must be some team.
Wow.
Tell him about the time Pele went to Villa Park.
The Pele. Best player in the world, Pele.
The very same. Villa played Santos, 1972. I was moving cones to let the players' cars in. And he spoke to me.
What did he say?
He said, "Boy, you, get out my way."
He waved at me. And he said, "Thank you."
I'd have got an autograph.
If he'd asked, I would have given him one.
Let us take you back to the glory days of football when any team could win the league and some goals would be seen only by the select few in the stadiums. It was a time when a team could become champions with just 14 players. And it was a glorious time in this boy's life as he discovers pain, heartache, love and the confirmation that dreams can come true.